Influence is like a savings account. The less you use it, the more you got. Andrew Young. Thank you for coming to Sweat for Success. I'm Marcus, your inspirational youth speaker, here to bring you an encouraging word today. Today's topic and title will be called The Power of Your Voice Has Influence. Kind of long, but follow me here. I want you to understand something here. How the power of our voice has influence in the circles that we are involved in. Your job, your company, your business, the relationship with your employees, the relationship with your friends, your children, your spouse, right? And I'm going to pull from a bunch of different sources here today because I actually took a while to get this message together. I was doing other messages because this message was taking a while to put together because I had to really get my facts straight on this, right? And so I pulled from a bunch of different sources. And basically, I'm going to start with the number one source, how the power of our voice has influence. The Bible. God, and Genesis 1, God spoke the world into existence. Or let's say God said, let there be light, and spoke it. But the point is this, God spoke, right? And the power of his influence gave light to the world. You know, created us, created all this that we have here, right? And even Jesus, they say that in the Bible, Jesus what was the living word, was the word of God. God became, the word became flesh, right? But Jesus was basically the mouth for God, or Jesus was basically he was the living word. He lived everything the Bible says about him. But he lived it. He lived it out for us. So he became the living word. But the thing is this, and Jesus had influence over so many people because of the sweet words he would use to people that would come out of his mouth, what he would say. And I did some studies that they say what we learn as a child becomes our inner voice. Basically, your inner voice is what they say. We have two inner voices. One of them is your intuition. The other one is your ego. Your intuition is the one that leads you away from fear and anger and danger and harm. And your ego is the one that leads you thinking negativity, danger, fear, and all those things. But what we start to hear as a child, the seeds that get planted in our head as a child, becomes part of our belief, right or wrong. I'm going to show you how. Right, because think about this. A child becomes what is being heard and said around the house, and what when they grow up listening to mom or dad, right? They start to believe what you believe. If you speak, oh, there's no jobs out there, the child grows up thinking there's no jobs. Or if you speak the economy's bad, the child grows up thinking the economy's bad. If you speak the white man screwed me in my life, the child will believe the white man will always screw him in his life. And if you don't believe me, think about this, right? How come I notice this, a 15, 16, 17-year-old child, white child, and I'm not going racial here, follow me here, a 15 or 16 or 17-year-old white child can use the N-word in its proper term to be derogatory towards another black person, right? How can that child do that? How did that child learn and know how derogatory this word meant? Well, the child has grown up in a house where it was spoke like that in a derogatory way. Now get this, he might not have learned it, like it might not have been passed down like a teacher passed down the knowledge to a student at school. But if he hear it around the house, then it becomes part of his belief. Those are the seeds that get planted in the subconscious mind. They say that the subconscious mind is the mind that runs 24/7, but the conscious mind is the one that, like right now, I'm in the conscious mind speaking to you. You're aware of what's going on. The conscious mind is the mind you use to become aware of what's going on around you, what you're doing. That's the conscious mind. The subconscious mind runs 24/7. See, and naturally, what comes out of your mouth, let's say, okay, during a heated argument, right? What happens, even if you're not drunk, there's no alcohol, if there's no drugs involved, when there's a heated argument, what happens? The truth comes out, don't it? Why? Because of what happens is the thoughts, the seeds that you planted about a single person in the back of your mind have been sitting there, just been waiting to come out. But those are the seeds you plant. See, these seeds you plant in your mind about said person, let's say your boss, your spouse or somebody, these seeds that you planted about that person will come out because subconsciously this is your belief of that person. Now you starting to get it. This is why in the heated argument those thoughts will come out, because this is your already belief about that person. Same thing with a child that grows up and has a view of the world, because these are his already beliefs about the world because of the seeds that were planted that you viewed of that person or of the world, right? In the argument, those seeds will come out of what you think about that person because of the view you already have about that person, right? Like a child has that view of that world, that's what's going to come out, his belief of it. And that's why, see, Les Brown said this, right? He said, once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are, right? Once you open your mouth, you tell the world who you are. That's why I always tell my wife, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. See, you can make people do whatever it is you want them to do if what you say comes out in a way that you projecting in a position of let's say authority and not power. I read in the book The Servant Leadership talks about power and authority. You want people to respond to your authority, not your power. Think about it. Would you want your son or your kids or your spouse to respond to your power or to your authority? See, power erodes relationships. This is why in companies you see strikes go on, because people in positions of power have abused that power now, right? People that have been in position of power in government, this is why you see strikes and protests go on, because the government has started to abuse that power, right? But you want people to respond to that authority. Why? Because say I ask my wife to do something, right? It's not what you say, it's how you say it. If I ask my wife to do something, she's going to do it, not because of what I said, not because of I might have power over her, and I don't. But it's because of my authority, but because she loves me as her husband. The authority, I'm her husband. So as her husband, she's going to do it because that authority position I hold in her life, as I will do for her, because of that. It's vice versa, because of the authority position she has in my life. She's my wife. She's in a position of authority that I will do for her what she asked me to do. But it's all about how she asks. It's all about how she says it. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. That's why I have this drawing here about the radio tower. Here's the radio building right here. And here's the radio tower, right? And there's your satellite. What happens in this here figure is the radio tower sends out a signal. Boom. It goes. The radio building sends out a signal to the radio tower. The radio tower receives a signal. It sends a signal back to the satellite that says, hey, we now have a connection. Now we can make sweet sound. This is why beautiful music comes out of the radio. What happens when that radio building sends out a signal to the radio tower gets it, it sends it back and says, we've made a connection. Now in that connection, what happens? Sweet sound comes out of the radio. Sweet sound is being heard, because now what happens, they made a connection. And it's the same thing with your spouse. Your spouse will respond. See, that tower responds to the radio building because it sent out a sweet signal. It sent out a clear signal. Okay, a clear signal. If that signal is distorted any way, or trigger with any way getting to that radio tower, there will be no connection. And if that signal has any friction going on in between getting from the building to the satellite, from the satellite to the tower, there will be no connection made with any friction in between that. And if there's friction in between you trying to convey, you trying to tell your wife something or your kids something to do, if there's any friction in between that coming from your voice, you're projecting, guess what? There would be no connection. And then you're acting in a rule of power, because if you're telling them to do something and they don't respond because of your authority, it's maybe because of how you said it, not because of because you said it. but how you said it is going to trigger their response to you. And if you say it in a sweet way where you're making sweet sounds, and you say it in a sweet way, they will respond and make that sweet connection. But if you're saying it in a position of power, then guess what? That power eventually erodes. And eventually that person will rebel against that. Like any business, like any government, when you become in a position of power, people start to rebel against that power, because the power starts to just say, do it or else. Do it or else what? Do it or else you're fired. Do it or else you're dead. Do it or else you get a whooping. And people will respond to that because they don't like the outcome of the or else. Right? That's power. Making people do things. But authority is asking people to do something, and they do it because you asked me to, and they do it because your authority in their life. As I said, just like vice versa though. You would do the same for that person. Because you say, hey, I respect this person, I love this person means a lot to me. This is why you hear football players say, I run through a brick wall for my coach. Why would he run through a brick wall for his coach? Because his coach is giving him the motivation and the sweet sound, motivating him, telling him, hey, kid, you can be a lot. You can do whatever you want to do in this world, in this country, and be whoever it is you want to be, but you must do it. You must work hard at that. The kid loves the way that sound. So the kid will do whatever that leader, that figure says, because he loves the way his coach speaks and motivates him. Coaches are no more than glorified motivational speakers, getting somebody to do for them what it is they want them to do, right? So we can achieve a common goal here, right? And I read this here. There's a universal law that says that in the manner in which you express yourself, you let the world know that is your identity. The manner in which you express yourself says that is your identity. You know, when a person is always responding in a conversation with argument or yelling, then you're telling the world that you're an aggressive, mean, uptight, introverted type person. But if you respond with a sweeter sound and you're coming off as, nice, kind, gentle, loving, then you're telling the world, hey, this person is the type of person I can get to know and get along with, right? And these are some of the things that you want to portray in your position of leader, of authority, not power, of authority. And you want people to respond to the sweet sound that you give off. Just like a child, you want that child to respond to your sweet sound. I want my child to respond to me, not because of my power, but because of my authority. But it's all about what am I saying to that child for them to respond in that way. See, what I say to that child is going to get planted in their head. And they're going to grow up thinking this way. And their view will be either good or bad in how they view the world. I want them to have a good view of the world. So I have to speak to them in good ways. And not in a warped way. Okay? Hey, I don't know if that was helpful, but use your voice, the power of your voice, for influence. Good, in a good way, for good influence, okay? I hope that helps, all right? Remember this, dig deeper to go higher, to live your higher calling and purpose in this life. God bless, be a blessing, and have a blissful, successful life.